Hello everyone. Many years ago I raised a lot of grindal worms, and my fish just loved them. When your fish get a little bit too big for baby brine shrimp, but they're not big enough for white worms, black worms, chopped up earthworms, or whatever, it's hard to beat a grindal worm. Now, the problem with grindal worms is they get flies like crazy, and they can be hard to find, surprisingly. At our spring auction here in Atlanta, about a month and a half ago, I got one of those starter cultures that I paid way too much money for on the little scrubby pads. By the time I got it home, I wasn't convinced there was any worms left alive at all on the pad, but I cut the little piece of pad out that had some slimy food on it that I figured used to have some worms, and I put it, as you can see, right into some dirt. This is seed starter mix, so it's a very fine soil. I don't know if it has any fertilizer or not. If it does, it's a little balls, and they don't bother anybody. But as you can see, I got them going pretty good in here. Problem was, I got a lot of flies going too. I've finally figured out how you at least keep the flies under major control. The flies have to go through their little larval stage, and then they become an adult. But they got to be an adult for a few days before they start breeding. So what I do is every day I take these cultures outside, I take the lid off, and I sit there and fan it to get every fly I can get, as many as possible, out of the mixture, out of the media, out into the wild. Then I take my little finger and I squash all the little guys climbing up the sides or whatever, the little larvae sitting there. And what that does is you slowly get rid of all the flies. If there's nobody breeding, nobody laying new stuff, all the flies go away. Next step, as soon as you can, split that culture. Take the richest little tiny spot, move it to another container, fresh soil, good cover, and that will leave a lot of the flies behind. Now here's my next culture that I made out of that one. Now what I'm going to do, dunk a finger in, and as you can see, I'm actually managing to start to feed some grindal worms. I mean, really, I looked for 2 years for grindal worm culture, bought 2 or 3, bought some on Aquabid, never could get them going. By the time they got here, there was either so few worms it didn't matter, or the temperatures had gotten them. I did a video a while back on getting some grindal worms from someone, and I mean, there was so few worms. This one had almost no worms when I got it. But the other side to it was, at least they'd been alive that morning. So what I've done now is, here's some fresh potting mix, same kind. I've moistened it so it's you know, it's still loose and friable, but it's damp. Now I'm gonna come into this culture and look at this little spot right here. What a nice rich little spot right there. So I'm going to take my broken putty knife. I'm going to cut and cut and cut. I'm going to pick that section out. I'm going to move it right there. Kind of tuck it in a little bit. Then I'm going to take some of the soil that I have here that's good and move it into the hole I just made. So that area has no flies in it, no nothing. That's nice, good, clean soil. So here's me a new one here started. First deal, get the old one covered. Now this guy here needs some food. What I feed the worms is the pellet food. This is the same stuff that we add to the homemade food we make for the dogs. It's some core wellness, and it's the Taste of the Wild salmon and sweet potato or some such thing. I don't know. It has no extra food colors, no extra preservatives. It's just a very nutritious, high protein, no grain food. And I'm going to put some pellets in there to get these guys off and running. And then because it's dry, you could wet it before you put it in. I know my media usually needs a little more moisture in it, so I give it a spray after I put it in. Then I cover this up. Now, I've taken this original culture with the little scrubby pad that had almost nothing on it, turned it into a decent little culture, but see, it's still struggling. It's amazing. Even after this much time, it's still not the healthiest guys in there. I pulled some of the worms out, moved over here. Wow, what a super strong start going in here now. They actually need some food also. Here, I'll give them a sprinkling of food. So I give them a sprinkling of some food. Wet it down a little bit. And then I have my brand new one here started. And it'll be up and running pretty good. So at some point here I'll figure I've chased the flies far enough and long enough that I'll get one or two of these that don't have any flies. And then that's what I'll use to make me a couple of shoebox size. I like the shoebox size cultures because you can really grow a lot of worms in that. But I don't want to do that till I get rid of the flies. And I'm slowly whittling them down. You didn't see any flies coming around. So I about got them cleaned out. So that's an easy way using soil. I realize it's not the fancy pads. This still uses seed starting mix. But it will grow a ton of worms. They climb up the side and very easy to feed, just like you were feeding brine shrimp. So there's my new Grindal Worm starter, my victory over the Grindal Worms. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to get notifications when I put new ones up. And happy fish keeping.